Welcome back to Sunday Sofatime, where every Sunday we talk about interesting travel-related stuff here in front of the red sofa. This week we're going to talk about traveling solo. Yes, welcome back everybody. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here because there's somebody who's not here, and that is Marcus. If you haven't been around, Marcus is on a cruise all by himself. All by himself, he's gonna cruise, which I don't think is a bad thing. I've done a couple trips on my own. I've done a huge road trip across the east of the United States, visiting a ton of theme parks on my own. I've done a cruise on my own, the Harmony of the Seas. I think a lot of you have seen those videos. And Marcus had these vacation days and this overtime that he needed to use. And I have some interesting projects going on right now that I just could not get time off of. So I'm really happy that he actually decided to do this on his own, because I was worried what would happen was he would take the vacation days and burn off the overtime, and he would just stay here and then end up probably going to work anyways, and I just didn't want him to do that. So if anybody's worried that I was really upset with him for doing this cruise on his own, I'm not at all. But him doing that gave me the idea of creating this video of telling you 5 reasons why I think traveling solo is pretty cool. And these are those reasons. Yes, I think, if you're used to traveling like with your entire family, then of course traveling just with one person is going to be much cheaper. You're only paying for yourself, you're only paying for your own food, you're not paying for any kids, you're not paying for any other family members, and so in that sense, traveling solo can be much, much cheaper. You only have to pay for whatever it is you want. Now, as far as cruising goes, cruising solo can be cheaper than cruising as a couple or as a family, depending on what line you cruise on. Not every cruise line is very accommodating to people traveling solo, because they want to have their cabins filled with as many people as possible. So if you, you would think, well, if I'm cruising, if I book a balcony cabin on like the Harmony of the Seas, then I should, only have to pay for one person. But it's not like that. If you want to stay in a normal cabin, usually you're going to pay more, just because the cruise lines want you to like fill up the pot of cash, I guess is how you could say it, because you're taking up the space that should be taken up by 2 people. However, there are deals on inside cabins sometimes for solo cruisers, and there are lines such as Norwegian Cruise Lines that offer dedicated solo cabins, which are pretty cool. They're all inside the ship, but they have their own lounge and you get access to special things. And so if you are planning on doing a solo cruise, I would recommend starting your search at Norwegian Cruise Lines on the bigger ships and look at their solo cabins. By the way, Marcus is not in one of the solo traveler cabins on the getaway right now. He booked a balcony because he wanted to open the door and go outside and look at the ocean, so he just bit the bullet and paid the money. Number 2. If you are somebody who's into theme parks, like we are, you can do a lot more when you are at a theme park on your own. Let me tell you, it's so much easier because you're only gonna have to do the rides that you wanna do. You're not gonna have to wait in line. You're not gonna have to compromise and go on any rides or wait for any rides that you're not really into. And more theme parks, especially the Disney parks, offer rides with single rider lines. What is a single rider line? Well, it's kind of self-explanatory, but how it works is on rides that are really, really popular, in order to get as many people through as possible, they will have a separate entrance for single riders. And I think originally this concept was created for, like when you're there with a family and only one person is like a thrill seeker. And so that way, it just goes a little bit quicker if you're only one person and then you don't care about who you sit with. It's not like you're you're 4 people, and then you have to get, these 2 people here and these 2 people here. You wait in the single rider line, and then the ride attendant, if there's a family of 3, then they will put you with that 3rd person, and that's how it works out. Nowadays, I think a lot of families will just, the whole family will go in the single rider line and then wait for each other at the end. And so on some rides, especially like, one example I can think of is Test Track at Epcot. The single rider line for Test Track usually takes as long as the normal standby line anyways. At least that's been our experience. But on other rides, the single rider line can get you onto the ride much, much faster. So that is definitely a plus about visiting a theme park alone.
All together.
Another great thing about traveling solo is that just the planning is so much easier and less stressful because you are only taking care of yourself. You only have to worry about pleasing yourself, and that is something that sounds really great to me right now because I am currently planning a Disney trip for 9 people, something I've never done before. Marcus and we've invited my nieces and nephew to come with us to Florida in November, and now some other family members are going to join us as well, and I'm sort of planning that whole thing. And let me tell you, dude, that is stressful. It's so stressful to me. I'm not saying it's like a bad thing because I'm really enjoying it. But it's just, there's so many more things to worry about when you're planning for a plethora of people with, with different interests, different dietary needs. And that is one thing that, when this trip is over, I think I'm gonna need to plan a solo trip as well, just so I can sort of recuperate and go back to doing it my way. Does that make sense? And not having to take into account all the interests and the differences of all the other people coming with. I don't want this to sound negative. Like I said, I'm really, really enjoying this process, but I just think in comparison, planning a trip for just you sounds really nice right now. Which kind of leads, this whole thing about only planning for you, that sort of fits to the next 2 points, and one of them is just that you have much greater flexibility. Greater flexibility about what you are going to do, and then when you get there, greater flexibility about what you do with every minute of the day that you're there. I mean, when Marcus and I travel together, we usually, we have the same interests, we like to go on the same rides, we like to eat at the same kind of restaurants and things like that, so that works out pretty well. But then, of course, if you're with a bigger family, or if you're with a bigger group of people, then there's a lot of compromise that has to happen to keep everybody happy. And when you're traveling alone, you just have much greater flexibility. If you are, let's talk about Disney again as a great example. If you decide, you know what, I want to ride Expedition Everest again right now, then you just do it. You don't have to ask everybody, is there anybody else who wants to go on it with me right now? Will somebody wait in line with me? You just do it. If you're on a cruise ship and you decide, you know what, I want to go see Greece again tonight. I saw it 2 nights ago, and you know what? I loved it, and so I want to see it again. Then you just go. You just go and see it again. You don't have to ask if anybody else wants to go with you, you just do it. And that is something that is really great about traveling alone, is that kind of flexibility. Traveling alone will allow you to do things that you might not do if you're somebody who feels like you always need to have somebody with you when you're traveling. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that will hold you back from doing certain things, I think. If you've got something on your bucket list, something that you've always wanted to do, and the thing that's holding you back is you can't find anybody else who wants to do that with you, then OMG, just do it. Just do it alone. Why wait until you can find somebody to go with you to do something that you've always really, really wanted to do? Just do it. You know what I mean? Like, if you've always wanted to do, go like zip lining in Australia and you can't find anybody else who can either afford that trip or who is interested in doing that with you, then just go and do it on your own. Why wait? why wait? There are so many great experiences I've had in my life that I've done on my own, that I planned it on my own, I went through with it on my own, and when you get back, then you have great stories to tell to all the people who didn't come with you, to your family. When I travel alone, I come back and Marcus and I, we go out to eat and I tell him everything that I did, and I'm so looking forward to him coming back and going out to dinner with him or sitting down here with a glass of wine and listening to him talk about all the great things he did, and I think that's a great thing about traveling solo as well. So, those are my 5 tips, and as always, I'm really interested to hear what you guys think of these 5 things, what you guys think of traveling solo. If you've got any other tips that you think are interesting, then just write them in the comments below. And if you're watching this now, then take a look through the comments and see, if anybody's got some other great advice too. And usually there always is. And now comes the time on Sunday Sofa Time where I comment on your comments. In last week's Sunday Sofa Time, I talked about how I sort of had a bathroom emergency while I was filming a YouTube tour of a gigantic, very luxurious suite on top of the Atlantis Hotel in Dubai, and Marcus and the woman from the press department were with me. So these comments are talking about that embarrassing experience, and there's some funny things here. 18 Knots writes, I think I would have asked the butler in the suite to poop for me. Would have saved the embarrassment. Yeah, that's what butlers are there for, aren't they? I should have. Anastasia Raven writes, everybody poops. Everybody poops. But I would have asked to use the restroom, which I didn't do. I kind of just snuck in. With my luck, the hotel would have the water off due to no one recently staying in the suite, and then I'd have to embarrassingly explain why I need the water turned back on. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that that did not happen. Anastasia, can you guys imagine how embarrassing would that have been to be like, there's a little problem here. I just had to go poop back in that bathroom in the master suite, and I can't get the toilet to flush. Oh my gosh. That would have been awful. Brian Dale writes, I would have gone back to the room where Marcus and the PR woman were waiting. I would have let the PR woman know that I must have eaten something that did not agree with me, and I have to use the bathroom ASAP. Most likely the PR woman would have told you to use one of the bathrooms in the suite, and she would request housekeeping to come up after you were done. At least you would have not had to make the room look presentable again after you were finished using the loo. Yeah, it was just sort of a weird situation. If you go back and watch the video, I explained the whole story, but it just, at that time, it just would have been too uncomfortable for me to be like, so just to let everybody know, I'm gonna poop. You know what I mean? That's why, no, I couldn't do it that way. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for commenting. If you missed it last week and you're still here right now, I created some merchandise, so that's listed in the links below. You can also find links to that on the Facebook page for the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. Please let me know if you want to order something and you're having any problems ordering your t-shirt or your towel or your tote bag, because I want to get it fixed then, so everybody can get what they want. Special thanks, as always, also to the VIPs over at patreon.com/veryunofficial. Your names are running over here right now. And I will see you all next week for another Sunday Sofa Time. Bye-bye.